If everybody, please, in the room, will look to the back of the room. Nobody's eyes on me, everybody to the back of the room. All right? Now imagine in your head that because you're looking at that back of the room and nobody's attention is on me, I cease to exist. You can all look forward again now. That's a concept that we're going to dig deep into today. Welcome everybody to this wonderful afternoon. I am Emmanuel Lyons. Now I'll be speaking to you and explaining the theory of Schrodinger's cat. Now, at the end of this speech, you should know three major things: who Erwin Schrodinger is, Schrodinger's cat experiment, and most importantly, its long-lasting effects in the world today. Erwin Rudolf Joseph Alexander Schrodinger. Who here has heard of him? Anybody? I figured as much. Well, Erwin Rudolf Joseph Alexander Schrodinger is an amazing Austrian physicist. Born in 1877 in Vienna, Austria-Hungary, before it became Austria, pre-World War days for all the history buffs, was an amazing man. Erwin Schrodinger grew up to become one of the greatest physicists of his time and one of the greatest scientific minds of all time. He himself came up with the equation for wave mechanics, and his experiments were the first to give physical evidence and meaning behind wave function. Not only that, but he has published a plethora of amazing books in the scientific community, and he is a Nobel Prize winner, a very prestigious honor. In 1935 came his greatest contribution to the scientific community, Schrodinger's cat experiment. This experiment was conducted for one reason: to combat an already very prevalent theory inside of the scientific community, known as Copenhagen's interpretation of quantum mechanics. Now, I'm going to explain that interpretation to you all. Copenhagen's interpretation of quantum mechanics goes as follows: all matter is all it will ever be, and in all states at all times. To break that down even further, think of it like this: every particle, if frozen in one moment of time, is everything it has been, everything it is, and everything it will eventually become at that one time. Now, this theory was widely accepted inside science, but Schrodinger shook his head and said, "I don't think so, Mr. Copenhagen." And so this is why we have Schrodinger's cat experiment. Now, it's a hypothetical experiment, meaning it uses the mind. So you all will be able to do this experiment today. Imagine we have a cat. You take this cat and put it in a sealed box. Inside the box is a Geiger counter, a radioactive sample, and a glass bottle of poison. Now, experiment goes as follows. Because this radioactive sample is radioactive, the atoms will eventually decay. When the Geiger counter senses that radioactive decay, it will trigger a reaction that will smash the glass bottle, releasing the poison into the box. As you can imagine, when the poison is released into the box, the cat goes bye-bye. But let's think for a second. Copenhagen's interpretation says that all matter is in all states at once. Well, if that stands, then Schrodinger says this: when that poison is released, the cat is both dead and alive at one time. It'll enter a super state where it will be both dead and alive. But the experiment continues. You open the box, and the kitty's there, either dead or alive, not both, because that's physically impossible. Well, then that means that Copenhagen's interpretation must be wrong. Or it means observation caused the reaction. Now, you're probably wondering what this experiment has to do with anything. So what? An old guy came up with a weird concept about a cat in a box. Well, that experiment and the thoughts behind it have led to a great study that is existent now and today. A psychological and physical study. It basically goes as follows: observation justifies existence. Let me explain. When that cat is in the box and the poison is released, due to Copenhagen's interpretation, the cat is both dead and alive. Well, if both dead and alive, how come when we open the box, it is either dead or alive? That's because our observation causes nature to collapse and choose one option, kitty alive or kitty dead. It can't be both because observation forced a decision. Well, that exists today. Psychologically, let's see. When you all look to the back of the room, due to the lack of observation, did I exist? Now, of course I existed because I'm still here. But don't let that be a reason to debunk this study. Let's go deeper into our mind. Say you were to wake up tomorrow morning, you yourself. You came to school, went to work, and interacted with all the people you know, and nobody seemed to acknowledge you. Nobody spoke to you, looked your way, and if they did look at you, it was like as if they looked through you. That happens the next day and the next day, and it happens every day for the rest of your life. Wouldn't you eventually ask yourself, am I alive? You start to ask, maybe I'm a ghost roaming the earth. Maybe something supernatural is going on here. You would start to question your own very existence. Why would you do that? Because the lack of observation does not justify the existence. That's as simple as it is. Observation justifies existence. Whether you believe it or not, it's a study that is very relevant today. Now you know. As I leave you, remember these things. Erwin Schrödinger, his cat experiment. And remember, if you can't see it, if it isn't observed, is it real?